Hello, and welcome to Mastering Business English, the podcast for English learners who want to succeed at work. Every episode, we help you learn the words, phrases, and skills you need for business. We cover topics like sales, marketing, and more. So if you want to speak English with confidence at work, you are in the right place.
Welcome back, everyone. I am James, and I am really excited about today's episode. We are going to talk about something very important in the tech industry: software development meetings. If you work as a developer, a project manager, or in any technical role, this episode is perfect for you.
And I am Sarah. Today, we are going to follow a real software development project meeting. We will learn the vocabulary that developers use every day, how to give status updates, how to discuss technical problems, and how to communicate with your team in English.
This is one of my favorite topics because I actually worked as a junior developer before I moved into sales. So I know exactly how challenging it can be to explain technical issues. In English, especially in meetings with international teams.
That is a great point, James. A lot of our listeners work in tech companies where English is the main language, even if they are not native English speakers. So learning this vocabulary is essential for career growth.
Absolutely. So today, we are going to imagine that Sarah is the product manager and I am a software developer. We are working on a new mobile app for a fitness company, and we are having our weekly sprint planning meeting.
Perfect. And do not worry if you do not know what a sprint is yet. We will explain everything as we go. Let us get started. Good morning, team. Thank you all for joining today's sprint planning meeting. As you know, we are in week 3 of our current development cycle. Let me start by sharing my screen so you can see the sprint board.
Great. I can see it clearly. So, for our listeners who might not be familiar, what exactly is a sprint?
Good question. A sprint is a short period of time, usually 1 or 2 weeks, where a development team focuses on completing a specific set of tasks. At the end of the sprint, you review what you finished, and then you plan the next sprint. It is a very popular way to organize software projects.
And what is a sprint board?
A sprint board is a visual tool that shows all the tasks in your sprint. It usually has columns like to do, in progress, in review, and done. Each task moves across the board as the team works on it. It helps everyone see the big picture.
That makes sense. So, right now I can see we have about 10 tasks on the board. Some are marked as done and some are still in progress.
Exactly. So let us go around the table and do a quick stand-up. Can you give us your status update? What did you work on this week, and is there anything blocking you?
Sure. So this week, I was working on the user authentication feature. That is the part of the app where users can sign up and log in. I finished the front-end development, and the login page is now fully responsive on mobile devices.
Excellent work. And is it ready for quality assurance testing, also known as QA testing?
Almost. I still need to write some unit tests before I hand it over to the QA team. I am planning to finish that by tomorrow.
Perfect. And are there any blockers? Anything that is stopping you from making progress?
Actually, yes. I am waiting for the API documentation from the back-end team. I need to know the exact endpoints, so I can connect the front end to the back end. Without that, I cannot move forward.
And for our listeners, can you explain what API means?
Sure. API stands for Application Programming Interface.
Thank you, James. Okay, I will follow up with the backend team and make sure they send you the API docs by end of day today. Does that work?
That would be great, thank you.
Okay, thank you, James. Now, let us talk about bugs. We have 3 critical bugs that were reported by users this week. I know you looked into one of them. Can you give us an update?
Yes, I looked into bug number 42. That is the one where users were getting logged out of the app randomly. I spent a few hours debugging, and I think I found the root cause.
Great. What was causing it?
It was a session timeout issue. Basically, the app was logging users out after 15 minutes of inactivity. But the problem is, we never told users about this timeout. So they thought it was a bug. The fix is simple. We just need to increase the timeout to 60 minutes and show a warning message before logging them out.
That sounds like a solid solution. How long will it take to implement?
I can push the fix to the staging environment by this afternoon. If QA approves it, we can deploy it to production tomorrow.
Excellent. And just to clarify for our listeners, can you explain what staging and production mean?
Of course. So in software development, we usually have different environments. Staging is like a test version of the app where we try out new features and fixes before releasing them to real users. Production is the live version that actual users are using. We always test in staging first to make sure nothing breaks.
Perfect explanation. Okay, so we will test your fix in staging today. And if everything looks good, we will deploy to production tomorrow. Does anyone have concerns about that timeline?
No, I think that is realistic. The fix is small, so the risk is low.
All right, next topic, code reviews. I saw that you submitted a pull request yesterday for the payment integration feature. Have you received feedback yet?
Yes, I got some comments from the senior developer this morning. Most of them were about code style and best practices. Nothing major.
That is good to hear. Can you give us an example of what kind of feedback you received?
Sure. One comment was about variable naming. I had a variable called data, which is not very descriptive. The senior developer suggested I rename it to payment response so that anyone reading the code understands what it contains.
That makes sense. Clear variable names make the code much easier to maintain in the future. Did you make the changes?
Yes, I already pushed the updates. I also refactored a section of code that was too long and complicated. I broke it down into smaller functions, so it is more readable now.
Excellent. That is exactly what we want to see in code reviews. Continuous improvement. So is your pull request ready to be merged?
Almost. I am waiting for one more approval from the backend team because my code touches some of their API endpoints. Once they approve, we can merge it into the main branch.
Perfect. And for our listeners, can you explain what a pull request and merge mean?
Of course. So when you finish writing code, you do not just add it directly to the main project. Instead, you create a pull request, which is like saying, "Hey team, I finished this feature. Can you review my code before we add it to the project?" Then, other developers look at your code, leave comments, and suggest improvements. Once everyone approves, you merge your code, which means you officially add it to the main codebase.
Great explanation. This process makes sure that all code is reviewed and tested before it goes live. It helps catch bugs early and keeps the code quality high. Okay, team, let us talk about the product roadmap for next sprint. We have some feature requests from the business team, and we need to decide what to prioritize. As a developer, I want your honest opinion. What do you think we should focus on?
Well, we have three main requests, right? First, the business team wants a dark mode option for the app. Second, they want push notifications for workout reminders. And third, they want social sharing features so users can share their progress on social media.
That is correct. So which one do you think we should tackle first?
Honestly, I think push notifications should be our top priority. Why? Because it directly impacts user engagement. If users get reminders to work out, they are more likely to keep using the app. That means better retention rates, which is what the business team cares about most.
I agree completely. And from a technical perspective, how complex is it to implement push notifications?
It is medium complexity. We will need to integrate with a notification service like Firebase or OneSignal. The backend team will need to set up the server logic, and I will need to handle the front-end implementation. I estimate it will take about one full sprint to complete, including testing.
Okay, so 2 weeks. And what about dark mode? That seems like a popular feature request from users.
Dark mode is definitely easier to implement. It is mostly a user interface, also known as UI change. We just need to create a second color scheme and add a toggle button in the settings. I could probably finish that in 3 to 4 days.
Interesting. So we could potentially do both features in the same sprint?
Possibly, yes. But I would want to make sure we leave some buffer time for bug fixes and code reviews. We should not overcommit.
Very wise. I appreciate that you are thinking about sustainable pace. We do not want to burn out the team by taking on too much at once. All right, let us plan for push notifications as the main feature, and if we finish early, we can start on dark mode.
Sarah, before we finish, I want to bring up something important. We have been moving very fast to ship new features, which is great. But I am starting to worry about technical debt.
Good point. Can you explain to our listeners what technical debt means?
Sure. So imagine you are building a house, and you need to finish it quickly. To save time, you might skip some steps. Maybe you do not paint all the walls, or you use cheaper materials in some areas. The house is finished and people can live in it, but eventually you will need to go back and fix those shortcuts. That is basically what technical debt is in software. When you write code quickly to meet a deadline, you sometimes take shortcuts. The code works, but it is not well organized or easy to maintain. Over time, this debt builds up, and it becomes harder to add new features or fix bugs.
That is a perfect analogy. So, what kind of technical debt are you seeing in our project?
A few things. First, we have some legacy code from the original version of the app that really needs to be refactored. It is messy and hard to understand. Second, our test coverage is only about 40%, which means we are not testing enough of the code. And third, we have a lot of commented out code that nobody is using anymore. It just makes the code base cluttered.
Those are all valid concerns. So, what do you suggest we do about it?
I think we should allocate at least 20% of each sprint to addressing technical debt. That way, we can gradually improve the code quality without stopping all feature development.
I like that approach. It is realistic and sustainable. Let me talk to the business team and make sure they understand why this is important. We cannot just keep building new features forever without maintaining the foundation.
Exactly. If we ignore technical debt for too long, eventually the whole system becomes unstable. It is like trying to build the 10th floor of a building when the foundation is crumbling.
Well said. This is actually a very important concept for all developers and project managers to understand. Technical debt is not always bad. Sometimes you need to move fast, but you have to pay it back eventually. All right, everyone, we are coming up on the end of our meeting time. Let me summarize our action items. You will finish the user authentication unit tests by tomorrow and push the bug fix to staging this afternoon. You will also implement the push notification feature as your main focus for next sprint. Does that sound right?
Yes, that is correct. And I will also work on improving test coverage. In my spare time, maybe during the last few days of the sprint.
Perfect, and I will follow up with the backend team about the API documentation and get approval on your pull request. We will have our next check-in on Friday during our sprint retrospective. Any final questions or concerns?
No, I think we covered everything. Thanks for leading a productive meeting.
Thank you, James. And thank you to our listeners for joining us today. I hope this gave you a realistic look at how software development meetings work in English.
Okay, listeners, let us do a quick recap of everything we covered in today's episode. We learned about sprint planning meetings and how development teams organize their work into short cycles called sprints.
We discussed status updates, blockers, and how to communicate progress to your team. We also learned important vocabulary like front-end development, back-end, API, and QA testing.
We talked about bugs and debugging, how to find the root cause of a problem, and how to test fixes in a staging environment before deploying to production.
We went through the code review process and learned terms like pull request, merge, refactor, and best practices. Code reviews are essential for maintaining high code quality.
We discussed feature prioritization and learned how to evaluate which features to build, first based on user engagement, retention, and technical complexity.
And finally, we talked about technical debt, what it is, why it matters, and how teams need to balance new feature development with maintaining code quality.
That was a lot of technical vocabulary. But remember, you do not need to memorize everything. Go back, listen again, and focus on the phrases that are most relevant to your job.
Thank you so much for listening to Mastering Business English. If you work in tech or software development, I hope today's episode was valuable for you.
If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe to our YouTube channel and leave us a comment below. Tell us, what technical topic should we cover next? Maybe DevOps, Agile methodology, software architecture.
We love hearing your suggestions. And if you have questions about any of the vocabulary we covered today, write them in the comments and we will answer.
Until next time, keep practicing your English, keep learning, and remember,
Your English gets better every single day.